calls, and before we leave here today, I want to get your take on if it does go with the death of the dollar first, because mathematically, as you and others have broken down, countless economists, even Fox News analysts are having, their economists are having to say there's no way out of this derivatives. You either write it off and then the big banks hold everybody hostage, or you're held hostage by them while they slowly strangle you, and obviously that's the worst option. But before you leave us today, I want to get your take on what that progression of collapse would look like. I've got a good idea, but when they've got the military preparing for re-education camps and it's declassified, that's even freaking me out. I mean, as much as I study this, and it's like, wow, it's really re-education camps, really in America? But I guess it happened everywhere else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always go back to the Enron example, because here's a company that up until the very last moment was considered to be the smartest guys in the room, a model company. They were on the cover of many magazines. And then within 24 hours, they went to zero. Stock went to zero, $80 billion in losses, because there was a total fraud. They had many, many off-balance sheet special purpose entities.
And how much bigger is this fraud compared to theirs?
Well, it's global. It's a global fraud, but it's run by the same guys doing the same things. Everyone who left Enron got jobs at other banks doing the same stuff, and they've all working together now on a global basis.
How bad will it get? Is there any way out?
No, of course not. Because the value of the claims can never be repaid, so they're going to go to being worthless. The people who are holding on to the Enron stock on a Tuesday, they woke up on a Wednesday, and what they thought was worth $80 a share was worth zero. That's why this is very tricky, because it's not going to. People are not going to have time to think about it and prepare necessarily, because it'll happen overnight.
What does your gut tell you the time frame is?
I told you before. I think the longest we could hope for is April of next year. But it could happen anywhere between now and April of next year.
Okay, well, the establishment in Europe and the U.S. is saying late October, early November. That's what they're telling the police and military.
Well, that falls into my zone, certainly. I mean, traditionally, the funny thing is that one reason things are not happening in Europe right now is because most European bureaucrats are on the beach. You know, in Europe, people take August off. I'm in actually Paris, not Amsterdam, right now, and you can.
The guys told me you were in Amsterdam. I was like, he lives in Paris.
I'm in Paris, so that you can roll a bowling ball down, the Haussmann Boulevard, one of the biggest streets in Paris, and not hit anything. It's completely empty. So therefore, nothing's going to happen in August. People start getting back to their desks in September, mid-September. Then they'll start to panic by the end of September. And then come October, yeah, that sounds good. But at the very latest, it will April of next year, when those tax receipts in the U.S. are spectacularly short. Plus, you remember the last major collapse happened during the transition to Obama, his first administration, in between the two terms. Remember, Obama had
Paulson threatened martial law then.
Right. John Kane was there, and Barack Obama was there. That's a great time to stage one of these fantastical economic hijackings. So that is a fantastic time, that November election, especially since it looks like Obama is not going to, he's not going to make it this time. It's going to be a transition to a new guy.
That we caught Justice Department people, that was in the Florida papers, trying to get a race war going over Trayvon Martin and the George Zimmerman case. Could it be Obama loses in the Democratic Party while Obama's still in, tries to stage a bunch of riots as a pretext?
Well, I always thought Obama was like Jimmy Carter, who came in because people hated Nixon and they wanted to try something completely new. People really hated Bush by the end of his administration, and they just threw like a Hail Mary pass. They said, let's go with something completely different. Barack Obama, okay, he's a one-term guy. Now we're going back to business as usual, probably with this other guy, Mitt Romney. But during that time, there's an interregnum between the two administrations where people aren't sure what they're doing, what the jobs are. It's the perfect time for Wall Street to push the sell button, cause a collapse, put a gun to Congress's head, and say, do as we do, or there's going to be martial law or whatever. They give us more money, give us another big bonus.
And by the way, that was I had the congressman on first when that happened in early October, and people didn't believe it was really the congressman. I had two of them on. And then later, they said it a week later on C-SPAN, and that pulled my bacon out of the fire, because sometimes this stuff's so crazy, people think I'm making it up and have fake congressmen on. Folks, we're the opposite of the onion. We're trying to get it right where they try to get it wrong. But that's on record. They threaten martial law, tanks on the streets, blood in the streets was the quote. And you just heard Ron Paul earlier saying we've got to avert blood in the streets. Folks, this is a big deal, because as Max said earlier in the last hour, during the 10 years of the Great Depression, major universities estimate 7 million people starved to death or died via complications from malnutrition.
Okay, let me jump in here for a second.
90% were agrarian then. Now 90% are urban's my point.
Let me jump in. I had a guy on my show, Keiser Report, last week, Paul Moore, who was the former top regulator at the bank in the UK, Halifax Bank of Scotland, or HBOS. He said on my show that right now, the global financial crisis right now today is already the biggest humanitarian crisis since World War II, that's put over 100 million people into poverty around the world already. Many of them now are facing death. And I asked him point blank, I said, would you call this a financial holocaust? And he said, yes, I would. This is a financial holocaust. And it's already in progress. 100 million have been thrown into poverty in the last 5 years. Many of them, 6 million, 7 million, are now either dead or facing death imminently. That's a holocaust. We're witnessing a financial holocaust.
Well said, and the perpetrators are up there posing as the saviors. Let's go to MJ in Chicago, go to break, and come back with the rest. MJ, first caller. You're on the air with Max Keiser.
Hello, Alex and Max. Mike, I have a quick question in regards to being a business investor in commercial real estate. Given the tragedy that's about to happen, is it wise to still try to do business, even as far as trying to refinance with the banks, even though they're insolvent?
All right, MJ, I'm going to jump off. Thanks for the comment. Your radio's on. Go ahead, Max. Comments on that.
Well, the best commercial real estate to buy into right now is the prison industry. They get huge subsidies from the government. They treat it like a real estate investment trust or a REIT, which gives them additional benefits that you don't get to a normal real estate vehicle. And it's a growth industry. That's the only real estate I would invest in is prisons. And I made that comment last year, and that's one stock that I know about is making new all-time highs. And that is the best real estate play you can go for.
Yeah, and then you could also invest in children's cancer. That's way up with all the shots and the GMOs by design, killing us. So you can invest in dying children. I mean, just basically anything evil is drones. The defense contractors making those, they're doing well. I mean, if there was a Satan Inc., that would be good to invest in, correct, Max?
Well, yeah, and I take your point. And the Monsanto, they're the ones who do the genetically modified seeds. Their stock's doing well. Halliburton, all the defense contractors, all the big oil companies, Corrections Corps of America. These are companies that are making money in this environment.
Stay there. We got to go to break. We're going to come back with more calls. But folks, invest in guillotine companies that are going to chop your own head off. Invest in a straight razor company, to slit your own throat. It's a great idea. In fact, invest in children that will roast your own child. Invest in a company where they roast your child for a Christmas ham. That'll be good business, too.
Everybody knows the good guys lost.
Yeah, well, I got to say, the war is not over. These crooks could all just go to jail. There are ways to reverse this. Ron Paul, Webster Tarpley, many other economists we've had on have broken down ways out of this. All of them are rough, but nothing as rough as going into the tyranny these people have set up for us. Because they've designed this implosion. We sell a book that woke me up that was written in 1972, None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen and Larry Abraham, available at InfoWarsShop.com. Also, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, a film I produced, breaks down their plan to take over through fraud. And Fall the Republic, I put out 3 years ago, predicted what we're now facing, all available at InfoWarsShop.com or link through at InfoWars.com. And it is your purchases of books and videos like Behold a Pale Horse, hosted by Charlie Daniels, available at InfoWarsShop.com, that exposes the Agenda 21 New World Order plan. We've got the highest quality water filters, discounted everything right there at InfoWarsShop.com. including Infowars.com. Patriot Apparel, you'll certainly turn heads and meet like-minded liberty lovers. Infowarshop.com. Okay, Max, we've got to move really, really quick, but I briefly, because I saw a question on my Twitter, Real Alex Jones, asking, hey, what's Max's take on the fact that they admit al-Qaeda works for the West? Yeah, I mean, sure, we knew things have been corrupt for a while, but what's this total disconnect with reality now and just open, pure evil where they say, give your rights up for al-Qaeda, but al-Qaeda are heroes fighting in Libya and Syria for NATO, and the CFR came out last week and praised al-Qaeda and what great fighters they are and said, quote, we need al-Qaeda. I mean, I thought al-Qaeda was the ultimate evil.
Right, well, yeah, they're switch hitters. You know, they go either way. They're the transsexuals of evil. You know, they remember I think we invade Iraq to go after Al Qaeda. Now they're our best friends in Syria. So it makes no sense. I guess they get away with it because people's attention span is quite short because of all the drugs and the genetically modified seeds and the debt pushing, I guess.
Let's go back to phone calls. Max Keiser joins us here. Gail, California, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Alex. Yes, thank you. Max, what good does it do to purchase silver or gold since the government is gearing up for war against American citizens shortly after the dollar collapses? I find it hard to see where we would be able to even spend it, use it, trade, or barter with it.
Okay, well, I mean, anything in that environment obviously is going to be helpful in a barter situation. Gold and silver for 5,000 years have maintained their purchasing power. If you want to get down to the nitty gritty of being in a total post-collapse
the
situation,
globalists, the University of Texas has bought billions in gold the last 2 years. All
the central banks are buying gold. I mean, and this is happening. You know, the people who know what's happening, like the central bankers who have put out a warning to each other that there's a collapse coming, are buying gold. The central bankers in South Korea and all over the world are buying.
Yeah, ma'am, if we have a total road warrior collapse, gold and silver might not be worth much, but it's probably just going to be a long, horrible depression. When the dollar gets devalued, that gold will suddenly go up in value massively. And we're not saying it's a silver bullet, pun intended. I mean, I believe in lead, and the things that shoot lead as well will go up in value, and that's already happened. But does that answer your question, Gail?
Yes, it does, but I just wanted to know if there's an investment firm that he would recommend so we can avoid the sharks out there ready to rob us blind.
I'll leave that to Alex to fill you in on recommending any investment firms. But I mean, one thing is the people I know are looking at are so-called junk silver. This is the silver that's 50% or less contains. And you can buy a whole bag at a coin show of junk silver.
And everybody knows what it is. And a dime from 70 years ago is worth 15 times what it is today.
That kind of stuff in a barter situation does extraordinarily well. But for people of any wealth whatsoever, having bullion, silver and gold bullion, held offshore in a vault, not a bank, is the way to go if you want to come out the other side of this with your wealth intact, if not, considerably better off.
Well, I mean, let me just say this. Yes, one of my big sponsors is Midas Resources, but when I buy gold, I get it from them because when you buy bullion, gold and silver from them, they've been around 15 years, before that other company even longer, you get it. It's very well priced, extremely competitive. Midas Resources, 800-686-2237. And they got salesmen there that are great guys, brokers. They'll sell you numismatics, stuff like that. All I know is I know gold and silver. I've called up like I'm somebody else before just to test them out many times and, bought great stuff at like 1 or 2% above spot. The way to go is bullion or junk silver. Max Keiser just told you right there. Great recommendation. JB.
People also, Alex, people say, well, wow, you have a gold sponsor. Isn't that,